In this discussion, I will talk about how to select a research topic for our research paper. Warning: any discussion on such topic has limitations. The discussion is always constrained by his scope of knowledge and experience. What is presented here is based on my own research experience since the late 1970s and early 1980s, when I struggled to get my first article published. Only after well over 50 failed attempts, I realized that although I was an excellent student in school, in terms of getting A's, the formal education up to and including college did not really equip me with the knowledge on how to do publishable research and how to get a research paper published. Now, to address this question, we have several possible starting points. First one, I want to get published, no matter how. Second, I want to get published, or I want to publish quickly and massively. Third, I want to publish in a well-recognized journal. And next, I want to publish possibly well-cited papers. And last, I want to publish groundbreaking works. Now, in the following, I will address each of these 5 scenarios one by one. Now, for the first scenario, I want to get published. Let's imagine a scenario how a person is in. Assume the person is new to the idea of getting a research paper published. For instance, this person is in his PhD program, needs to complete a potentially possibly publishable research as his dissertation. Or the person has not done any research for a while, and now, for some reason, he's back to do publishable research. So the scenario, to summarize, is this. The person does not have any research topic to work on. Now, by any research topic here, we mean a topic the person is able to work on to derive some consequences. Because as most of us know, we can easily list many questions we think we are interested in working on them, but we are unable to due to all different limitations. Now, in our case, to get out of the difficult situation, we need to do the following. First, we need to be humble and talk to those who publish regularly, and then see what's their experience is telling us. Second, we glance through some how-to books, and these books tend to be general in nature, so we have to come up with detailed steps on how to apply what we learned in these books. And we read a few recently published papers on topics that interest us, and then formulate problems that are still not addressed by the recently published papers, and see which problems we formulated we can actually solve or address. At this stage of our creative works, we do not have to worry about the importance of the problems we can possibly solve, because at this stage we will find we are very overwhelmed by what we are doing. And secondly, it is always a good idea that we start a notebook in which we list all the possible open, unsettled problems we formulated. We feel there is a chance we can work on these problems. Many colleagues I have ever met never really go beyond this stage of learning and frustration. And that, in other words, that means getting published initially is the most difficult stage of a researcher. And also, we need to realize having published a few papers does not really mean we have successfully passed this initial stage of learning. And that explains why a lot of senior scholars no longer publish in their later careers, even though they still work on different problems, but somehow they can no longer get their work published. Now let's look at the second scenario. I want to publish quickly. After the initial stage of research, a person might want to publish research papers quickly and or massively. Okay. The key for success for such a purpose is that he needs to write in an area that has well-defined pool of reviewers. Now, for instance, we write a paper. We submit to different journals, but they couldn't find people who are willing to review our papers. That means none of the journals will be able to publish our papers. So what do we do in this case? First, we find what research topics are currently hot. And then we choose a hot topic that falls within our knowledge base or our knowledge structure. And then we determine how we could produce conclusions that are parallel to what has been established. And then we write up our papers. And then we submit the papers to journals that are lower ranked than that of the original research. And in this case, the authors of the original research might very well be serving as reviewers of our research paper. Now, let's look at the third scenario. I want to publish in a well-recognized journal. What do we do? If we need to publish in such journals, we have to work on research topics within the scope of the current editorial board of the target journal. Generally, each member of the editorial board covers a particular area of knowledge. So that means our research has to be in one of those listed areas of the editorial board. And generally, we need to pay attention here. Highly ranked journals lag behind new trends for the very reasons of why they are highly ranked. Okay? They generally do not consider papers. Okay, they only consider papers in recognized fields, and the results established have to represent some new development in the fields. The reason for this policy is this. A lot of innovative research might lead to future successes for the authors and for the journals. However, well-established journals generally do not want to take the risk to publish such papers because many such papers don't make it in the long run. Now, in this case, what do? We carefully study recently published papers in these journals. Select a few such papers that fall within our scope of knowledge. Now, we critically study the papers so that we can see connections between the established results, and we can pinpoint out missing joints within the imagined connections. And now we write up a paper to fill in the missing joints with the case analysis and the rigorous arguments. Next, let's look at the scenario of publishing well-cited papers. In this case, we need to work as much as possible in a presently hot research areas. We need to develop professional connections with as many scholars as possible, while sharing our own work with these scholars. And lastly, we need to pay attention to write survey papers. Now let's see why. An area is hot for a reason. Generally, it is because it currently attracts a lot of attention that seems to make the area grow fast. Growing fast means people will be more likely to cite each other. And the professional connections here help attract people to our works. And thirdly, survey papers organically thread most important results initially established by different scholars all into one paper. Okay, here. Whoever's paper is collected in such survey papers, the person will be very happy, feel very proud, feel being recognized. On the other hand, when people read what's the latest state of a research topic, survey papers tend to provide the quick path for them to reach the frontier of the research in this particular area. Now, let's look at another scenario. We want to publish groundbreaking works, and this is the ultimate goal for most scholars. And this desire is most challenging and requires the person to be flexible on what he might be working on. For instance, a person wants to work on some topic area which requires elaborate laboratory equipment, requires a lot of funding from outside agencies. Then this kind of research will be very difficult to carry out unless you have already established all the groundwork. Otherwise, physical conditions, budgetary conditions might really limit us from conducting such a work. So that is the meaning why we say we have to be flexible on what we might be working on, because we might be working on things we never expect or imagined we are working on. In general, to produce groundbreaking works, we have to learn from such grand masters as Newton and Einstein and see what they did right in their professions. And by studying these masters and others throughout the history, I found the following. To publish groundbreaking works, we have to look at the world from a brand new angle or color, formulate problems that will most likely excite the public, develop our theory and method that can be readily employed by others, and demonstrate what our results imply in as layman terms as possible. Now, one example coming to mind is Newton's calculus. Now, Newton became very successful in his career because he established calculus and he established many laws in physics. Now, what's the trick here? he established laws by using a new tool called calculus. So the third step here we mentioned is because of the new tool called calculus, people can understand those physics laws more readily, and they can apply them in different ways. And that whole thing excites the public. Okay. Another example here is most recently we have a new theory called grid systems theory. This theory started in 1982. And because this theory presents a whole set of very easily usable tools for data analysis, so the research along this line has been very well cited and highly regarded. Now, on the other hand, one contemporary of Newton is named Leibniz. He's considered a co-founder of calculus. Other than calculus, he also had done many other important research in other areas of knowledge. Now, in comparison, Leibniz was not as successful as Newton in terms of history. The reason is many of his works, even today's scholars, are still trying to decipher what he's really talking about. So anyhow, I just use these examples to demonstrate the importance of establishing a new theory that excites the public, that can be readily employed by others, and what we mean by the conclusions we establish. Okay, this wraps up our discussion today. And please direct your comments and questions to my email. I love to hear from you. I will discuss our comments and answer your questions in the following videos. Thank you very much.